right, in this here video, we're just going to do a little comparison against life expectancy, which you will see here, to the GDP per capita, which is here. So remember, GDP is gross domestic product. Per capita means per person. And we're going to do this for all kinds of different countries. So, some of these, well, all of these, I think, questions are going to be a little bit of estimation, right? We're using a graph. Nothing is concrete. So according to the graph, about how much is the GDP per capita in the U.S.? Now, the U.S. is here. GDP per capita, we're going to go straight down. It's not quite 60,000. It's more than, halfway is 50. So I'm going to say it's approximately 58,000. You could say 56, 57, 55. Anything between 50 and 60,000 is probably accurate, right? Because we're estimating with a table here. What's the approximate life expectancy in the U.S.? Well, again, here's the U.S. We go across this way, and I would say it's approximately 80 years. So right now, if you have a baby, your baby can expect to live to be approximately 80 years old. That's old. Okay, so that's just using the table. Now, using this graph, estimate the number of countries represented here which have a longer life expectancy. Now, this is the life expectancy, so if the U.S. cutoff is here, we want to know how many countries is this. And you can kind of count the dots, and I tried, but it's hard to tell if some of them are doubled or whatever. But if you count the dots, how many do you see that are greater? And then do you count the ones that are right on that line? Are they greater? Are they the same? I don't know. I estimated roughly 27 countries have a longer life expectancy than the U.S. One of them being Iceland, one of them being Luxembourg. Right? That's very exciting information to know. Could help you in trivia crack. Okay, so number 4. We're going to use our answer for number 3, and that's why, depending on what you answered in number 3, could affect your answer in number 4. Remember that I said 27 in number 3. So if there are 185 countries represented in the scatter plot, what percent of those countries have a life expectancy longer than the U.S.? So we found that the number of countries was approximately 27. So if we say what percent, well, that's X over 100. And then on the right side, if we think part to whole, well, 27 is part, 185 is all the countries. So part to whole is 27 over 185. I cross multiply and I get 185x equals 2700. Divide both sides by 185. And I end up with approximately 14.6%. So approximately 14.6% of these countries have a life expectancy longer than the United States. That's what this means. Okay. Number 5. How many countries have a GDP per capita larger than the U.S.? Well, if this is the U.S. here, that means all of these countries, including Luxembourg and Qatar, have a higher GDP per capita. So again, you count the dots, and I estimated roughly 15, roughly. The question in number 6, explain the relationship between GDP per capita and life expectancy. Well, I'm going to go back to this graphic for a moment, and whoops. And I want to just say, so we're using the U.S. If we say, okay, the U.S., let's go this way and let's go this way. So this group here is the group that has both a higher GDP per capita and a higher life expectancy. So it's not all of them. There's a handful, right, maybe 10, that have both a higher life expectancy and a higher GDP. But when you're talking about this, it just seems like the countries that have a larger GDP also have a larger life expectancy. You don't see anybody with a GDP per capita of 140,000 that only lives to be 45. All of the people, if they're over here in this section, they're all living to be 75 or 80. So the higher the GDP per capita, the longer that you're living, it seems. I mean, Iceland has a small GDP per capita, but they're living forever. They must just be frozen in ice, maybe. Right? So, there's a lot of different reasons of why that may or may not be true.